Welcome to the Comic Binge. I am your host, Paul Herman, and tonight I am joined by the Reverend and Spidey Dude himself. And today we are going to be reviewing Madam or Madame Web, as I like to call it. So do me a favor. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that stupid crap that YouTube makes me do because they suck. I love you, YouTube, and also hate your guts. Yes, please go subscribe. I heavily appreciate everyone already has, and watch that video all the way through, right? Just subscribe, hit the like button, select the like button, whatever you want to do. But today we are going to be talking about Madam Web, and it's it's a movie. It definitely is a movie, which we will be talking about. And yes. Chris, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Just chugging along. Wish we had something more fun to talk about.
This could be fun for all the wrong reasons. Let's put it that way.
That is a fair observation.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We'll talk more about that. Zach, how are you doing today, sir?
Listen, it's I'm better than I deserve. I get to be on the Comic Binge. It's a beautiful day anytime I get to come to the Comic Binge YouTube channel.
You honor me by saying that. I really appreciate that. And we were talking about earlier. I wish I haven't been on their Spidey experience, not because I'm like bitter or anything like that or any whatever.
I just thought you had a vendetta against Wells, and
I'm like one of the only Spider-Man fans who doesn't have a vendetta against him apparently. So we'll see.
It's funny. Paul and I were talking about this when I was at his house the other day because for whatever reason, mostly because I was moving across the country at the time, I stopped reading Amazing about halfway through Nick Spencer's run. Not because I didn't like it, just I got distracted and then I never picked it back up. And I have heard so many different things, so many different conceptions of what happens afterward, not to mention everything that happened about the ending of Spencer's run, presuming he had much of anything to do with it. But I'm like, I should catch up on Amazing. But then I was thinking, should I right now? I don't know.
Did you wait until after the next relaunch in Volume 7, the inevitable Volume 7 that comes? Maybe that's the great.
Have they solicited a new volume already?
It's inevitable. All right.
So there's some rumors that he might leave around issue 60, and if that happens, then they'll just do a new volume. They'll do Volume 7.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel as terrible about that stuff now that they're keeping legacy numbering, but it's still.
Yeah,
I know it's grown into.
Well, yeah. Well, anyway, we have 7 people watching the live chat or watching live stream. Excuse me. Please leave a comment. Join the conversation. Leave a like. Appreciate everyone already has. We're gonna be a super long review because why? I'm just gonna throw it out there for everyone. I'm in a bad mood, not because of this movie, but just in a bad mood period. So I may be very harsh what I have to say about this movie, way more harsh than I usually am. So I'll go, Chris will go, then Zach will go, talk a little bit, and we'll probably bail out after that. But I just want to kind of say my piece about this movie. Madam Web and Sony has always been just it's been a weird thing, and this goes without saying, the Venomverse or whatever you want to call it, to Morbius, to the weird Sinister Six movie we're going to get for whatever the hell reason. Right. But regardless, the Madam Web movie, there was an Aunt May movie at some point, that was being developed, which what the hell were they thinking on that one? Right. So whatever. But anyway, Madam Web makes its way through the Sonyverse. And of all the Spider-Man offshoot characters they decided to do the Madam Web for whatever reason. But then the things started coming out about how the Spider-Woman were going to be a part of it. And that was going to be a thing. And, well, you're entitled to your opinion. That's all good. And the thing is with Madam Web, I think to be true, I'm being 100% truthful. I'm such in a bad mood. Zach knows when I say this, I'm being 100% truthful here. And Chris too. I don't think there's I don't think the premise was inherently bad on the surface, like this on a very elevator pitch. It's not a terrible idea. The problem is the execution and a couple things. First of all, Dakota Johnson as Madam Web was about probably the worst casting you could probably do for a movie. She's terrible as Madam Web. She's awful. She looks bored. She doesn't look inspired at all. And it's just like, that's your main character. You cast Dakota Johnson to be the main character, but she has zero interest of what she's doing. And you can see it on screen. It shoots right at you. You've got the guy who plays Uncle Ben. God, I forgot his name. He looks like he's more interested in this.
Adam Scott.
Adam Scott. Thank you. You got Emma Roberts, who is doing her goddamnedest in this movie. At least is trying. Dakota Johnson doesn't look like she's trying at all in this movie. And it's a bummer. It's like, God. So you have that, which is going to, it's not good. But here's the thing for me that is really insulting and brutal and my biggest complaint. But before I go there, I just want to throw you guys and everyone in the audience here. Has everyone seen Spinal Tap?
Our app goes to an 11.
Yes, the 11. One of the most famous bits of all time.
Yes.
Do you remember this scene of them reviewing Shark Sandwich? Do you remember this?
It was the.
They said there was hold on. There's a 2-word review, and that's exactly what I'd give this movie. Shit sandwich. And exactly what this movie is, a shit sandwich. And I hate saying that because I think there is probable, like, decent premise here, and it does not start with Madam Web. In fact, the fact that Dakota Johnson's in this movie and is like makes it through and doesn't get fired for being so bored is probably a miracle in of itself. Here's the true travesty of the movie. The Spider Women themselves actually look awesome. They look good. They look great. They are interesting and their costumes look cool.
Yep.
Here's the problem. They're only in the movie for like literally 1 minute, like maybe under 2 minutes of screen time of actual costumed hero crap.
And they marketed it as such.
And you think that we're going to get this at least a little bit at the end. There's nothing.
Nope.
Nothing. Instead, you get freaking whatever the hell this is, like Ezekiel in a Spider-Man costume running around. Like,
you know what this looks like to me on that costume? It's like what if Kane's containment suit from the 90s mashed up with like a Spider-Man suit with all the vining and shit like that.
That's being too generous. It looks like you know what it looks like? Someone did a Spider-Man costume that couldn't do it because of the rights and because like they don't have the copyright, so they had to make a costume as soon as they could. And they go, well, how can we do it without being sued? And they went, we can do it like let's make it look like this. That's exactly what they did. It's a cheap knockoff brand at like the dollar store. And it sucks because the costume inherently isn't bad, but it's like, why is he wearing a Spider-Man costume? I don't understand. And so this whole movie is about like the origin of these characters, like, which again, this is what they led with. And this was good. They look good. But instead we get, even this is still like better than
that's a better
jacket.
That's better. That image, that promo image is a better look at the costume than we saw in the
movie.
Because when you see her in full costume at the very end, she's like a floating head of guilt. And it's like they made it purposefully, like, because she's supposed to be spooky or some shit. And it's like, you can't even make out the details of the fucking costume. Sorry, I didn't mean to drop an F.
It's okay. It's all right. Listen, this is why we came to the movie right here was this.
Yeah.
This is what they had to market to. And Sony, and I'm assuming Tom Rothman, like, and there's that Hollywood Reporter article that came out recently that talked about how they didn't blame women, but they said, well, women didn't come out and we don't know if that's, you know, whatever. I'm like, first of all, don't even say that, because here's the problem. Like, women, men, doesn't give an F. Like, you didn't market to the right people, or you marketed to the right people, but you marketed incorrect, like you falsely, you lied to us, basically.
You bait and switched.
Exactly. And Chris, I'll give you to in a second. I'm just ranting and raving and just taking my frustrations out on this thing. These costumes are why I go see superhero movies. It's not because of effing Netflix sweatshirt wearing people around for majority of the movie, and I get this for like 1 minute. That's not what I came for. That's not what I spent $20 for. So why are you doing that to me, Tom Rothman? You want to complain that people didn't come out for this movie, and it's like, hey, you know what? Maybe actually put superheroes in your goddamn superhero movie, and maybe you might make a few more bucks, you freaking idiot. It's like, I feel like this is not rocket science. This is so simple. You put them in give me 20 minutes of them in costume or something along those lines. 10 minutes, for God's sakes. And you're going to have probably a more entertaining movie, and maybe people might be more forgiving of it. But instead, we get Madam Web in a red jacket fighting spider people out of nowhere. It's just, I'm done. Chris, take it away.
All right, Chris.
Let's presume for a moment that the marketing was on point, that everything that they did leading up to the release of the movie was, it did its job. It did what it was supposed to do. It interested the kind of people that they wanted to interest in watching the movie. Let's say it did all of that. Okay. That helps week one, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to help any other week that the thing is playing in theaters, because the fundamental flaw that this movie has is that it doesn't really have a reason to exist. Ezekiel as an adversary, that got me intrigued initially when I first heard that they were going to be bringing him in, because I'm kind of a Straczynski apologist, and I thought that what Ezekiel brought to the table was kind of a cool idea, and it was different, and it was outside of Peter's comfort zone, and he was struggling to manage the kinds of threats that were represented by Ezekiel and his ilk.
Right.
This was not Ezekiel Sims, first of all. The tenuous connection that this movie has to the source material is the thing that I found most distracting. And then when I read that Hollywood Reporter article with a lot of blame shifting about why the movie didn't connect and why it's not doing the business that they wanted them to do, or that they wanted it to do, it's like, first of all, women aren't a monolith. But second of all, you're blaming women for not showing up to your shitty movie. I mean, let's be real. If you gave more women or men or anyone a reason to come see your movie, something that actually had something interesting to say, and something that had arguably more fidelity to the source material, you would have gotten a better story out of it. The fundamental problem with all of these Sony movies, save for maybe Venom in an extreme situation, is that it's Sony's desire, Sony's way of trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're not making movies with Spider-Man right now. Spider-Man is occupied, thankfully, by a different set of ultimate decision makers weaving into the tapestry of the MCU. And the basic reason that they're even making all of these derivations on the Spider-Man film franchise is just so that they can slap a spider on a superhero-ish movie and run with it and laugh at people like us because, oh, you guys will turn up for anything with a Spider-Man in it or a hint of a Spider-Man in it. And
Right.
there's only so much goodwill that you can draw upon from a comic book fan base. First of all, comic book movies right now are kind of under fire, broadly speaking, from not just general audiences, but also executives. And if you're going to basically add fuel to the fire that says that superhero movies are a passe concept, then you're just digging your own grave even faster. There was very few components of this that were redeemable. Frank Miller, I think, of all people, even though he didn't really follow his own advice, said it best when he said the best comic book movies are the ones that are truest to the comics. And there was so little fidelity here, not just when it comes to the main character, but all the Easter eggs and the winking and the nudging just for the sake of having a box checked. Like, oh, that was all Ben's doing. Ben Parker, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like that Ben Parker. Yes, that Ben Parker. Okay, yes, we got the message. Thank you, Captain Obvious. And then on top of that, you're going to have Peter's mother show up in it. And if you want to talk about, doing justice to heroines at the movies, to women at the movies, you're going to have a scene, a literal scene. And Paul and I laughed out loud when we saw this just out of disbelief. A literal scene where Peter's mother's water breaks. Spoiler alert. I'm sorry,
I forgot about this.
Ben takes her and the others to the hospital, and Madam Web comes back and looks in the window of the empty house. The lights are off, and there's a little puddle on the floor. That's not how that works. Okay? And the fact that it was in the, like, maybe the argument is, well, it's just an efficient delivery mechanism to get her to understand where they were. Okay, fine. Granted that maybe, but still, I mean, just the ridiculousness of the image in and of itself is really representative.
Oh God,
it's like her powers are to be able to interpret ectoplasm thanks to shenanigans.
And like, I mean, and this is a capable director too. Like, she has a very long career on really celebrated TV shows.
Right.
But this, to me, is greed incarnate, made as a movie for no other reason than to try and suck the nickels out of the pockets of comic book fans.
And then try to claim there's superhero fatigue when you put out a complete crappy movie.
I did not think that I would be wishing I was watching Quantumania, but holy hell!
Whoa, you hold your tongue, my friend. I'm
not going to hold my goddamn tongue. Are you kidding me? That movie was bad, and this movie made that one look great by comparison. That's my point.
So if I may jump in here,
yes,
please,
because I do feel like that one thing that really annoys me about general audiences right now. And people think this is an MCU film. It's not. It's a Sony film of Marvel characters. That is a subtle but profound difference. But the problem is, to general audiences, they think this is a Marvel film. This is going to become a increasingly bigger problem for Disney and their brand, because there are 3 of these this year. We have Kraven the Hunter in August, and we have Venom 3 in October.
But Venom is a proven money. And people like the Venom movies, and I like the Venom movies fine. Like I think they're, because here's what Tom Hardy's done. Tom Hardy has mastered, like, oh, I can be over the top, ridiculous, and stupid, and it works in this context, and he gets that. And it makes those Venom movies have a charm to them that they're better than they have any right to be, because of that, of his understanding of the material and the kind of movies that Sony wants to make, and realizes, I'm going to make some money, have some fun. And people recognize that, because he takes it. because Tom Hardy takes it seriously. Unlike someone who looked completely bored the entire time they were in the goddamn movie. He at least tried to. He knew what movie he was in.
Well,
She did not.
and
She wanted to get out as soon as possible.
That's beyond the fact too that there's now like an actual connection, a thread between the Venom movies and the movies of the MCU, since a remnant of the symbiote is now in the MCU from the Venom film.
Thanks to the No Way Home tease that we got. Here's the thing. This movie suffers from multiple issues. The cast is not one of them. I think the cast did as well as they could with the material they were given. This is a horrible script with horrible plot, and there was when things start to offend me as a Spider-Man fan, you're doing it wrong. I got a little offended at the Amazonian people being painted red with the vines to make themselves look like it's Spider-Man, and the mental gymnastics that they were doing for the spider people. Why? I wish that JMS had done the screenplay for this movie, because he would have done these characters far more justice than what we got here. This felt like the script was they had the original script, and then they threw the script into ChatGPT, and whatever it spit out was what they ended up freaking filming. They actually blatantly ripped a entire couple of shots from the first Raimi film. If you guys noticed that, that building, I saw the building that you see right before we see the final shot of the girls. That's straight from the Raimi film. Like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, wait a second. I thought people were joking, because I saw that on the internet, and then I saw it in theaters. You got to be shitting me! I know that scene, because that's the scene where he's. I think he was in the wrestling suit from when he first.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right.
And so I'm like, because I've seen that first movie probably 60 or 70 times because it was on TV so much, and so I felt like Aranya was only there to say smart things. I felt that Maddie was made just utterly annoying, just for the sake of being annoying and a spoiled brat. And it felt like Sydney Sweeney was just female Peter Parker, because part of Julia's characterization, especially in the modern day, gets transposed into Cassandra. And it's like, I get to the end of the movie. You know what the question I asked when she's sitting in the wheelchair? Did her myasthenia gravis kick back in? What the hell? How is she paralyzed now? I can understand why she got blinded, which is utterly that made me laugh in the theater. By the way, she got blind. I mean, we're going full spoilers. She gets blinded by a firework. That's what blinds her. What?
Hey,
it's also the product placement was so awkward in this movie.
Was it Pepsi?
It was Pepsi
everywhere. It was Pepsi.
It was Pepsi everywhere. There's a scene, I shit you not, for those that have not watched the movie, there's a scene where Ben hands Cassandra a can of Pepsi. Does she open the can? No. She just holds the can and just make sure that in the entire shot you see the phrase Pepsi in her hand. It is so awkward. And I'm like, are you going to open the can? Are you going to take a swig? Are you going to do anything with this can? No. And then my favorite one was the mental gymnastics of the stupid party games at the baby shower, where we couldn't say who the name was because we needed to get to the next scene, where Denny O'Neil, paramedic O'Neil, gets maliciously murdered because, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, O'Neil, who is the co-creator of Madam Web. There was also a person behind me that I think got triggered by one of the car wreck scenes, because she started crying. I was like, oh God. And I felt bad for that person.
That feels bad.
Yeah, I feel really bad for that person, because I was like, nobody warned this person. The editing on this also was baffling. The amount of jump cuts we got to cover up inadequacies for whatever they shot, it was astonishing. And probably one of the most egregious things about this movie to me was there's a scene where we have Ezekiel's chick in the chair, and they're doing this conversation, and it's essentially the same conversation twice. If you notice in the second version of the conversation, if you watch his lips, they do not match the dialogue that is spoken. They just copy and pasted and then dubbed over the audio of this. Okay, Walter. See, Walter, this is one of the reasons I shared it on the Spidey Dude side, because I knew Walter would catch this, because he warned me. He goes, "Save your money," and I'm like, "Look, I paid $7 for this movie, and I still felt like I got robbed." It was bad.
You know, I think I keep going back to this, because this I like these costumes, and I actually don't mind the characters. It's just weird to be like, let's make a movie about the origin of those characters, but yet let's show them in costume to say what the sequel might look like. This, it's like, just give me this movie first. I don't care about Madam Web and like walking around in a red jacket looking bored and uninterested the entire time. And listen, like, I'm sure Sydney Sweeney is like, you know, I'm sure she did try. I feel bad, but I also feel like she's kind of like, I don't know. She's just not, or Dakota Johnson. To be honest, I thought Sydney Sweeney was one of the bright spots of this movie. I know
she played her part earnestly. That's why
exactly.
She played it.
All the Spider-Women did. They all did. I thought, to be honest,
did an exceptional job with what they were given. The problem is they were given so little to work with that it causes it to stand out amongst. I mean, even the guy that played Ben Parker and you got what's her name? Emma Roberts. You got Emma Roberts to play Peter's mom. That's all solid cast. The cast was not the problem.
No,
but I think the director was in over their head, because this script was was done so that way they can continue the clock.
Well,
because if it ever stopped.
Well, that's my question though. So because I know I thought it was 3. Is it 3 years? I thought does it have to be actively in production?
I think it's 5.
It's 5. Then why do they have to make 5 movies in like 1 year then? Like, I don't get it. They're like, why? Okay, so really, you say your piece. I have to understand.
Yeah, go ahead. These two got pushed because of the strikes, so that's part of the problem. I think this and Craven got shifted around because of the strikes. This was done back in early 2021. I mean, I remember seeing the set photos and going, "What the hell are we? What are we?" I remember seeing the set photos and going, "What the hell is this movie?" And I remember when they announced it, I'm like, of all the characters we're gonna make a movie around, we're gonna do Madam Web.
Craven at least looks ridiculous, and like we're gonna have like a Rhino versus Craven. That's gonna be at least fun to watch. It's sure as hell is funner to watch than this broke ass Ezekiel run around and be like bad ADR and be like, I'm gonna fight these people, and then he's like, in my broke ass non-copyrighted Spider-Man costume that I cannot wear. It's just like, why?
Well, it's also just stupid because like this is clearly a world where Spider-Man is going to be around at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So by first of all applying the loose components of the Ditko design to the people that we saw in the beginning of the movie, and then you're effectively taking a pretty close, not even like a prototype version of the Spider-Man suit. This is a pretty well-developed version of that costume design, and Ezekiel has it. That raises so many weird questions. Okay, well, what is Spider-Man going to look like once he is not an infant anymore? But beyond that, we know why they made this. And it's the simplest answer that exists. You know, Occam's razor, the simplest solution is most likely the correct one. It was money. Let's not pretend like
Oh, yeah.
they're
Well, yeah,
doing
of course.
the bare minimum just to maintain the rights. So poor Sony, we have to try and hold on to the Spider-Man rights. So we have to do just a little bit of this and a little bit of no. They want to try and cash in on the Spider-Man license as much as possible because the fact of the matter is cinema, especially at this level, comics at all of the mainstream publishers, really the entire art form that's driven by these giant conglomerates, they only put these products out, they only put these stories out because they make money off of them. The things that we appreciate about storytelling philosophy, movies or other kinds of stories, particularly comic stories that manage to capture our imagination, those are the byproducts of the engine, the economic engine that drives this material forward. When those things happen, we celebrate them and we say, yes, give us more of that. But what the people in charge of these organizations are hearing is just do more of that. And they don't really care. That's why the movies of the MCU are more exceptional because they have someone at the head of it who, yes, is an extraordinarily shrewd businessman, but he also loved the stories growing up. You know, someone like James Gunn in charge of DC Studios, also a very good businessman, clearly, but also someone who has a demonstrated storytelling acumen. The people who are driving the Sony Spider-Man films only see the dollar signs, and they don't care if the movies are good as
Well,
long as they make money, because a lot of the times those movies, even if they weren't great, would make money. So
but
it's our
here's the
responsibility to
but
not
here's the
support
yeah.
something like this,
But
to
Chris,
send a message with our wallets.
here's the problem though. Like and this what sucks, and they're gonna get the message because the way I see it is you could have like you want to make a Madame Web movie on the cheap. This movie was made for just under 100 million or around 100 million. That's what that Hollywood Reporter article confirmed.
Only
Okay.
I thought it was the budget was 200.
No, it's only yeah. After all, yeah, it's only 100 million. So they made this thing on the mega.
Does that include the marketing though, or the lack thereof?
No,
That's just
the actual film, but the production budget was what Paul said. The
Yeah.
full budget that is going to make sure that they don't break even was what you saw, Zach.
yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
yeah, but like I'm just talking about this budget. Here's the thing: if you would just tweak a few things and spend a little bit of more money, again, bringing in what we want to see, which is superheroes in costumes. If you're making a Spider-Man movie like this, you probably make your money back. Not easily, but I'd say it's a good chance you're going to make your money back because there's going to be probably a better movie with more action in it. Not to mention, gasp, maybe actually inspire little girls, like maybe a little older than my daughter, to want to see this movie because they have younger looking women who look awesome in costumes together, more than just one, teaming up together. What a goddamn concept. But instead, we get Netflix version, which is the cheapest of the cheap. Put Madame Web in a freaking red coat, send her to Africa, and then we get Ezekiel, in a broke ass, non-copyrighted Spider-Man costume, and away we go.
You know what that costume looks like?
Stupid.
It looks like the Black Spider from DC, just put with red accents.
It looks like crap, is what it looks
like. It didn't look great in the set photos. It looked even worse once we got it in the trailer. And again, the fact that Dakota Johnson left her talent agency after the trailer dropped should have told volumes of the story, because in her mind, I think she wanted to come because everybody, despite all the media bullshit, everybody wants to work for Marvel. Why? Because you can make a shit ton of money.
Of course. That goes without saying.
Dakota Johnson thought that she was coming to an actual Marvel film. She thought she was going to be a part of the MCU. She talked to other people. She talked to freaking Elizabeth Olsen. And she thought she was going to get a chance to do a Marvel movie. And I think when she got on set and she started that whole manufactured picture of her holding the first appearance of Madam Web as like a mark, I was like, the look on her face was like she has no, like, she would probably be the absolute worst person to play poker with because she has no poker face. Because
that's what I'm saying. She was terrible. You obviously could tell she did not want to be in this movie.
It's like
she hosted SNL. What was it, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 3 weeks ago. Yeah,
she performed pretty well in those. The performances in her SNL sketches, were better than what we got out of this movie.
Oh, I mean, she
I don't think it gave her a reason to care.
I think there's been some talk about her. There was some script. They were changed the script on her midway through production. Who knows?
I mean, we also need not pretend either that she was a passive observer in all of this.
No.
I mean, she is the movie's representative for good or for ill, and I'm sure that maybe there was an aspect of it that could have been misrepresented to her, but at the same time, I mean, she did the job that she was hired to do. People like us can debate whether or not she was effective doing that job, but she did what she wanted to do, and they gave her a reason to at least come aboard. Problem is that everything in the construction of the movie, the thing that I find ultimately so, I guess offensive is the right word. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to come off like a screaming fanboy, although we're 30 minutes in and probably that ship has probably sailed for me by this point.
Yeah.
But this feels like it just treats people who do earnestly enjoy this material, whether you're longtime fans or recent fans, with such disdain and with such carelessness, because, well, as long as we hint that this is sort of a Spider-Man movie, these people will give us their money. And it's just, that is not the case. I really thought, and shows how stupid I am, I really thought that we were past the Steels and the Electras and the Catwomans because of the immense success of movies like the MCU, movies like the Dark Knight trilogy, to varying degrees, more recent examples of DC cinema. But this clearly shows that the economic interests are going to win out, and it is a masterclass in showing why you need people who actually understand this material. And the people who lead like Marvel Studios and now DC Studios, it's not just to appease people like us, because yes, we're gonna scream and shout if we see Kaleidoscope in the background of the Suicide Squad, right? That's just what's gonna happen. But good movies are universally enjoyed. When The Dark Knight came out, everybody said, oh, that's not just a good Batman movie, it's just a good movie, right? And that's the era that I really did at the time believe that The Dark Knight was ushering in. More recent years have moderated that perspective, at least in my mind, a bit, but there is still a floor of quality that you can expect from an MCU movie. There's still a floor of quality you can expect from a James Gunn directed MCU movie or DC movie or DC TV show in his case, right? They're good stories. And because they are just good stories, they are also financially rewarded. This is not a good story. And it's so disheartening that something like this exists. Something that on paper could have been both more truthful to the original material and just frankly better. These are all characters who don't have an abundance of history and adaptation. Their stories in the original material are going to be way better than anything that this movie came up with. Do that. Let's not do just the easy cash-in CW crap that they decided to do with this.
And as somebody that enjoyed a lot of the CW stuff that DC put out, that at least had some heart and soul. at times.
Sure.
There is no soul to this. This is a soulless, purely cosmetic movie that thought that if they give you enough cape shit, you'll enjoy it. But literally, they gave you the almost, I mean, it's below absolute bare minimum. It's like 2.5 minutes total of screen time. And half of it is recycled. Half of that stuff was recycled. I mean, the two main scenes that we saw the girls in costume, they basically did the same scene twice. When you're recycling stuff to try to save money in your budget, to put it for the bare minimum of like 2.5 minutes, you failed.
Yeah.
And in an era of which we've seen, at least with Warner Brothers, literally take a movie and write it off for tax purposes, we then get this put out into the world and we're going, maybe they should have wrote it off for tax purposes.
Batgirl would have been a far better thing to see than this. I'm reasonably confident.
Yeah, I would have enjoyed it. I would have enjoyed seeing Michael Keaton and that part of the universe, you know, out there. And again, it's just a soulless cash cow, and that's
well. And to Paul's point too. I mean, Zach, the fact that the costumes are included. First of all, the stuff they included in the trailer, like 90% of the stuff we saw with the costumes in the movie. But
the trailer's 2.5 minutes long, and they're in in costume about half that time.
They're on this poster that's our background right now. That's a disingenuous promotion, really. You know, like X-Men First Class didn't promote Hugh Jackman's cameo. That's the equivalent of putting Hugh Jackman on the poster for X-Men First Class. That's basically what that is. And Paul, I don't really think you'd like this movie anymore if they were in costumes for most of it, because you'd still have the same story and you'd still have the same.
Yeah, it'd be different. It'd be a little bit different. It'd be a little bit different. A little bit different.
The girls were the girls were purely reactive throughout this entire film. And because they didn't have powers, because we couldn't give them, I mean, it'd be different if they had like a little seance thing and they all gained
that's what I'm saying.
powers.
Yeah, exactly.
Participant in the movie, then that would have made it 10 times better. If she came back from Peru and said, "Okay, girls, I need you to put this spider on your hands, and you all get spider powers now."
Yeah,
yes, yeah, we would have laughed at it because it's a little absurd, but it would have made the girls an active participant in the finale of the entire movie.
What a concept!
And you could have had a little cute little thing with Mary and Ben, where the girls have to save Mary and Ben and make sure that Peter gets delivered on time. And instead of getting the whole, hey, he just what he thinks, because like the whole bits at the very end, I'm like, oh, there's the annoying Madam Web that I remember from the comics. Okay, I'm starting to see it now. But it literally took 2 hours for us to get to that point.
Yeah.
And well, even Cassandra was purely reactive throughout the entire movie. And it's just, it had all the worst tropes were in this movie.
And it dated itself, too.
Yeah.
I mean, Richard Donner, I think, made such an excellent decision when he did Superman by trying to make it timeless, really. When you go back and you watch Superman the movie, other than the hairstyles and the typewriters, that movie could take place at any time. The MCU has sort of moved away from that a little bit, but like they are of their time, but they don't like overly try to peg themselves as taking place in a particular era, save for maybe one or two examples.
Right.
But by placing this movie within a firm, like single time frame too, I mean, you're showing where the priority is to just make something for right now that has no longevity to it. It's highly doubtful to me that when they were making Madam Web, they didn't aspire to make the next Superman the movie. And I mean, I appreciate when a filmmaker at least tries, and it just doesn't seem, whether it was the studio's fault or whether it was something else, there was just such little effort.
Yeah, and not even to mention the entire
last thing,
the laughable premise of Ezekiel befriending an NSA chick at the at the opera just to get her password so that way they could hack into the NSA network, thinking that they would never be caught. That was the other thing. I'm like, oh, the Fed's going to bust.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe Zach got busted. Oh. Am I the only one who's seeing this, or am I?
No, I'm seeing it too.
Okay. Well, it's a good way to transition. I hope Zach can come back. We'll see what happens here.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's wrap this up. Yeah, it's a shit sandwich. I think we all agree. Zach, where can people find all your material at?
Well, first of all, you can go to spidey-dude.com, where you can find all of our great podcasts over there on the front page and website. We also are over at the Spidey Dude Radio Network. We have some people that are watching us live here on YouTube, so thank you guys for that. And be sure to go like and subscribe to the Comic Binge so you can get more of fine efforts between Mr. Chris and Paul, because they are absolute studs when it comes to comics. If you want to increase your knowledge base of comics in general, you can always go to the Comic Binge YouTube channel.
Well, that's very sweet.
Much appreciated, man. Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Reverend?
You can find me on Twitter at Chris Clow, CHRISCLOW. You can check out my website, bychriscloud.com, where... Thanks. I don't normally hear that one very much.
Speak for yourself.
But you could. I am speaking. Look, I can't help.
I know.
I can't hope to reach your standard, Paul. Okay, let's just.
No one can.
No one can handle the jobs. It's those
no one can.
Right? I mean, come on. That's God given right there.
That's right. Goddamn right.
I added a couple of some of my old comic book video game reviews to my website, bychriscloud.com. If you're really curious about what I thought of Green Lantern: Rise of the Manhunters in 2011, which wasn't bad, check it out. And then, of course, all the fine stuff that we have coming down the pike on the Comic Binge. We are going to be reconvening the bridge crew of Discovery Debrief, Star Trek podcast pretty soon. The 5th and final season of our namesake show is coming up, so we will be talking about that pretty soon. And we've also got an interesting show cooking up. One of my absolutely favorite Star Trek video games, the writer of the game's story and one of the programmers will be joining us for an episode to talk about it.
Cool.
Oh, I forgot to promote the upcoming interview we got going. JMD Matei is coming back to talk with us about Shadow of the Green Goblin, the miniseries coming out. Very interesting conversation that we had. So that'll be coming out on Friday, I believe.
That's awesome.
Right on, man. Well, go hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Appreciate everyone already has. And I'm going to get the hell out of here. Chris, go ahead and lead us out, my friend.
Read more comics.